Welcome to the 7 Cents Podcast, where we go beyond dollars and cents to unlock the mindset beyond the money.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mike Macklin, aka Money Mike, the financial Thanos, because I'm snapping my fingers and I'm turning your financial problems to dust.
And I'm Coach RL, your money mindset coach. Mind right, money right, legacy locked in.
Guys, this is not your average financial podcast. We're breaking down money myths, mindset traps, and economic game plans.
We keep it real, raw, and relevant, from micro money moves to macro financial shifts.
This is a 7 Cents podcast where your mind meets your money.
All right. What is going on, everybody? I want to welcome you guys back to the 7th Sense podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. You are in for a treat. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Coach R.L. Simmons, aka the Money Goat. How you feeling, man?
And I'm good, man. I'm good. Just another day above dirt. Can't complain, brother.
I heard that. So you know how we do here. Sometimes, we make people mad. Sometimes we make people happy. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to get people in the right mindset when it comes to money. And today's episode is going to be no different. Sometimes in life, we find ourselves, wondering or, barely, treading water, especially now with the way prices are as far as like oil and the whole conflict we got going on in Iran, and we just wonder to ourselves a lot of times, like, are we just stuck somewhere? Like, are we in this, like, I don't know what they call it, a purgatory of financial straits here? So it kind of prompted me on today's subject, and that subject is the middle class essentially like the purgatory of finance? Because a lot of middle class individuals find themselves in a situation where they get the brunt end of financial, I guess, rules or laws, especially when it comes to taxes. So me and Rob are going to kind of, break this down for you guys today to kind of talk to you about our thoughts on it and maybe even shed some light on what you can do to get on the proverbial right side of the money. Rob, we're gonna get right into this thing here. So let me ask you, do you feel like the middle class has become like that kind of pressure zone of financial policy or whatever? What are your thoughts on the middle class in that sense?
Yeah. First of all, great topic, man. I believe that this one is really a hot topic because this really allows people to pivot when they know they left and they right boundaries. And I think we have to look at it from a intellectual perspective, right? Like the laws of numbers is going to tell you that because most people are within that working class, and there's more people in the middle class that the system was built specifically for them. The tax system was built specifically for them. We're going to tax the working class, and they've been doing it since we had kings. But as far as is it a penalty? Does it feel like a penalty? I'm going to say, yeah, if you're a W-2 worker, for sure. If you're a W-2 worker, just there's a lot of unknown information for a lot of people in the middle class, and that leads to them being put in that position to have to figure out, what does my taxes look like? That's most people, right? And so that's where the government is going to pull most of that pot of money from. But because, we have all of these rules and law, I mean, I call them rules. They are rules, but they're laws that may feel like it specifically targets the middle class. And therefore, I would think that they should feel penalized.
Makes sense. I kind of want to add a little bit to that as well. You kind of hit the nail on the head. It's almost like the middle class kind of has this like proverbial target on their back. And the reason for that is because, you got on the lower end, the low class or whatever, they don't essentially earn enough money to really get taxed based on the tax code. And the people on the higher end, they're a bit more educated on the tax code, and so they kind of understand how to play the game. So what I really feel like it comes down to is a transparency thing. It's like, okay, they're not really looking at the lower class, and the wealthy understand how to kind of hide. And basically what you said really hit the nail on the head. And that is, the average person is a W-2 employee. So they're kind of like as you could say, they're like, hey, here I am. kind of situation where they're pretty much just out there. Like that's who we see. It's almost like, I don't know, like they're hiding in plain sight. They're just like right there. So it's like, yeah, you.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, you. And so that's kind of how it works. I was trying to think of an example like kind of in line with that, but I'll leave it be. So really, I think that kind of is where it really starts, is because the middle class is kind of like the most financially visible, and I feel like even more so, going a little deeper with that, with their visibility, it also creates a sense of predictability. Like we know, okay, what you're going to do. We know how you're going to spend. We know what you're going to spend it on. And honestly, with taxes, that's a lot of what taxes has to do with. It's not so much as how much you're earning. It's more so of how you're actually earning that money. And so I think that's what really puts the target on your back. So, with that being said, let's kind of pivot here and let's talk about how you making your money. Do you feel like basically the earned income, it has like a lot to do with the fact that the middle class is like the worst, because a lot of times that is how middle class makes their money. It's like, okay, they go to work. So do you feel like that is one of the key factors in that process? Or what are your thoughts on just earning income?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again, just going back to the cookie cutter YouTube earner, and we talked about this before, where essentially the tax code is a game, man. It's a game, and the upper class, they play to win, right? You got to know the rules of the game. One of the things that we did talk about was how the way the system is set up with these rules, it's like playing tag, but the middle class doesn't know how to play the game. They don't know how to say not it. They don't know how to get stuck on glue, unstuck on glue, none of that,
Right.
right? Like they don't know how to play the game. So when it comes down to taxes, the lower class, they don't make enough for it to be a tax advantage for the government. So they say not it. Then the upper class, they know the rules. So they say not it. And guess who's it? The middle class. They kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And, you have to look at how to, and I think we'll get a little bit into that of how to not necessarily move as a middle class person, but really just enlighten as far as education as to how they should be earning money, because that earned income is what's really going to punch you in the gut. Because when you got just that W-2, you make $90,000 a year, you ain't got no dependents, it's cut and dry that you owe us a couple dollars. Let me hold that.
Absolutely.
Let me
Right.
hold that. And the state does the same thing to you. So when you look at it from that perspective, it really is about educating yourself on your thresholds of earned income, how you earn your income, and how do some of these rules are applicable to you as a middle class earner doing more than just the
Okay. So to me, listening to that, it sounds like what you're saying is it's not so much about making money, so much so about how you position yourself. Because you used a
100%.
perfect example of like basically like playing tag or something. Like, okay, the people that know better, essentially they know how to quickly just like, all right, no, not it. And for the middle class kind of has that same kind of issue. Is like I feel like the biggest problem, and I think we talked about this before, the biggest problem is being right in the middle puts them in a proverbial comfort zone. And so the middle class don't really take the time to say, oh, let me figure out how to play this game, because they make just enough to kind of keep them comfortable and keep them quiet. You know what I'm saying? The people who don't really make any money, again, the tax code ain't looking at them because they like, you don't have nothing for me to take. It's not really advantageous for me to really go after you because you don't have anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like 11% of $5 is like negligible. I'm like, okay, dude, I don't care about you.
Exactly.
And, again, independently wealthy people, they basically have learned to master the art of saying, okay, look, I don't have anything. And I think that's where the positioning thing kind of comes into play. Is like how you position yourself financially really kind of tells the story of the tax code. Because, like you said before, the tax code realistically, all it really is an incentive program. And most people don't understand how that incentive program works. And I said it before, it's not so much about how much you're making, it's about how you making it. So I think the key thing that the middle class needs to think about when they're looking at their situation is, okay, one, okay, how much am I making? That's fine. I mean, but they need to understand, okay, how is this money being made? And is that the real problem? So I think that really boils down to that shift in psychology. I kind of talked about that comfort level, but what psychological things do you think is going on with the middle class that maybe puts that target on their back or makes it look like, okay, hey, yeah, you are the best candidate for me to take all the tax money from?
Sure. I think it's really psychologically, it's a couple of things, but the one that registers to me most is really their presence bias, right? So we generally as humans have this innate ability to believe that whatever's happening now is important, right? That's why people get that FOMO when something happens and they feel like they missed out. And what presence bias, you will prioritize something right now in the immediate over something in the future, even though the thing in the future makes sense. You're still going to say, well, I have this right now. I don't want to miss the opportunity, whatever that is. And then you continue to spiral in that. So you're living by the day. You're living psychologically, you're living in survival mode, which means that when your brain is operating in a level that is um, not that's not advantageous to your benefit, what happens is you only have short-term memory, right? Well, not, excuse me, not memory. The short-term basically planning, right? You can only plan short-term. You can only think, all right, shit, I got a issue. I got to work my way out of this issue. And then the next issue, shit, I got an issue. I got to work my way out of this issue in the moment right now. And it happens over and over and over again to where have so much pressure, paying the bills, the kids got daycare, I think that's the biggest things, bills, trying to afford things when you got other family members. Yeah. So people have a tendency to not be able to prepare long term when their brain is stuck in its default survival mode. Therefore, when it comes to, hey, let's sit down, do a tax strategy. Hey, let's look at what are we making this year? How do we plan to ensure that the money that we make or this income isn't all taxable? Even if it is taxable, what are some tax breaks that we can do? Your brain's not going to be thinking of that. I'll just give you like a small example. People do know, but they don't do. I know this for sure that you can adjust your was it the W-9 or your W-4 or W-9? Four. You
Yeah,
can
the
adjust
W.
the W-4 at any time, right? And a lot of times people don't even claim, themselves or, they have no exemptions, and some people do. I had one of my coworkers. I was just looking at their taxes and just doing a quick calculation, say, hey, this is going to be a big piece of change. Do you have any dependents? He's like, yeah, I have dependents. And I went and looked at, their federal and state withholding. Then I looked down at their exemptions and I'm like, you didn't claim any exemptions. And they was like, well, I didn't know I could change it. Like, well, I mean, sure. Why wouldn't you be able to change it? Because if you had a baby, you should be able to change it, right? Nobody's really thinking about that. And it's just small things like that. But really, it just starts with planning. I mean, we're probably going to start with the W-4 to say, all right, let's work our way backwards. How much do you make? What exemptions are you claiming? What are some other things that you're doing outside of this W-2 that can be beneficial as far as taxes? Another one that I see is you'll have somebody who's a W-2 worker and then they work as a third party distributor or marketer for another company and they just get a 1099 and then they're paying self-employment tax when they can just open up a business, have the distributor, whoever's paying them, pay the business a 1099, and then they can get a whole different tax because self-employment, I'm not trying to get too deep into it, right? But there are a number of strategies that they can do to get me. I feel like y'all got to pay me for that. I was about to give away all of that.
Right, you about to give away the sauce, bro. Like I saw where you was going with this. I was like, you about to give it all away.
I said, hold on, let me take a step back. No, 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 that's the paid version. But there are some
Right.
things that you can do, essentially as a W-2 worker or a person that has multiple streams of income to increase your chances of, and I say, I don't want to use the word taken advantage of, but that's really what you should be doing is taking advantage of the tax codes, right?
Yeah,
They're there for
absolutely.
you. They're there to protect you. And it's like essentially, the government gifted you a raincoat and it's raining outside. They didn't really tell you about it, but it is in your coat. All you got to do is open up the closet, reading the instructions, and put the jacket on to go outside. But a lot of people are just going outside without a jacket.
I like that. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because really thinking about that, I think a lot of it is part of it is structural, but the main thing is behavioral. It's how you actually act. And one of the main things is the lack of planning that most people in the middle class do. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about before, that comfort zone. When you get real comfortable, your mind kind of just shuts off. I mean, just think about, after you done came home from a hard day at work, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, what have you. All you want to do when you get home is sit down and turn that TV on. You know what I'm saying,
Hmm.
and
Cut
relax.
your
You know
brain
what
off.
I'm saying? Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly, and cut your brain off. And I feel like in a lot of ways that's again that's that predictability. The individuals who create the tax laws and different things like that, I think they have things like that in mind. They understand the psyche of especially the middle class, because like I said, we're going to keep using the middle class because that's the focal point of our conversation, but
Yeah.
that's the psyche of the middle class, and they know that. And they know it. Listen, I could put it out there, but they're not going to look for it because they're too tired. You know what I'm saying? By the time they get
That's
home,
good.
they're not saying, okay, all right, I don't work this hard day of shift. Let me sit down and plan my taxes now that I'm at the house now. They're more likely than not, they're not going to do that. And that's a huge problem. So my question to you is why do you think that most earners only think about their taxes at the end of the year? You mentioned that earlier about how, nobody really looks forward. They kind of just, look, I'm just trying to get through today. So what do you think makes people just wait until the end of the year to even start thinking about this?
Yeah. That I think it's a combination of the the combination of the two things that we both just talked about, right? Just having that presidency bias, only dealing with what's happening today, and then that, hey, I'm tired from these 8, 10, 12 hours that I put in. I'm not gonna do anything other than go to work, get the kids, make dinner. Just the way that our American schedule is built, it doesn't leave any buffer for, all right, let's sit down and talk about the future. Now, not to say that that time doesn't exist, just when your brain is operating on, let me fix this problem, let me fix this problem, let me fix this problem. We're not looking 12 months out to fix a problem until the problem arises. And then it happens every single year. I feel like it's unfortunate. I feel like people do recognize themselves doing it, and then they tell themselves that they don't know how to they don't know how they don't know where to start. That's just generally the question that I get is, "Hey, I don't know where to start. I have this problem. I know it's a long-term thing because it's not urgent or important or it burns in a moment. They're just not going to do it." But at the end of the day, the starting point really is understanding that you're having a problem, then go to a professional, right? Just go to a professional, whether it's a paid professional or somebody who can give you 30 minutes of your time to give you some guidance as to where you need to be. A lot of people will, I feel like ChatGPT the one to say, because ChatGPT always say most people do this and that and that. And I'm like, you're generalizing people now, chat. Don't do
Right,
that.
right,
Don't do that, chat. But realistically, boy, I get off track so easy. But realistically, it's because is this American society has a lot of pressure and it doesn't allow people to focus on long term. It is a personal thing that people need to really learn how to carve out their time. I know that's one of the strong suits of my family is once we had a problem, we sat down and we said, all right, let's figure this out. The first time we did that, and then we operated in real time the way we sat down and talked for 2 hours. Then we came back and said, hey, is the game plan still good? And we kept going. We start realizing, hey, when we carve out time to plan for the future and then we operate within that playbook, life is better because we're all on the same page. I don't think people don't want to do it. I think they just don't know where to start. And I think it just starts with carving out the time to sit down and fix it.
absolutely, absolutely. Something that came to mind when I was listening to you answer this question and everything like that. And I think it's something we talked about before is we talked about that identity, like how you identify yourself as
Mhm.
a participant in the economic system. A lot of people, the way that they identify themselves is like they just a cog in the wheel. You know what I'm saying? Much like when they go to work, they just say, "Hey, listen, there's nothing I really can do about this. So, hey, look, it is what it is." And I think that is one of the biggest problems that we have is that especially the middle class is again their mindset and how they feel about just life in general. But that life, as they say, what they say, life imitates art or art imitates life,
Yeah.
one or the other. But I think a lot of times that kind of plays into it. So how you live your life essentially is how your finances and everything else they all kind of follow suit. So
Absolutely.
so so do you feel like do you feel like the middle class is just like doomed, or do you feel like there's an evolution that they can make to put themselves in a better position?
I don't want to say doomed is the word, but the middle class is going to be the middle class. For specifically for the middle class, the middle class will be the middle class. The middle class will be taxed. The middle class, that's don't matter what you do when you're in the middle class, that's going to happen. However, for the individual, you can move left or right. You have the choice, right?
Yes.
You have the choice to get out of the middle class, right? I think that I just smile thinking of like I probably shouldn't say that out loud, and I'm not going to. But
That's what we do though, Rob. That's what we do.
yeah,
Come on.
you know what, you're right. That is what we do is we could like keep it real. But you're right. Like you are absolutely in charge of your destiny. If you understand what the middle class does and not even specifically middle class, I would just say a middle class earner, right? Because we're talking um let you're gonna hear my little rich mind come out. But I would imagine you have probably a wave up to maybe this window of people generally are just W-2 workers. Some of them are contractors. Contractors are even more tough because they aren't paying taxes off bat. So they do have to figure out some strategies to do that. Do I think they're absolutely doomed? As a class, yes. As an individual, no. As an individual, there are some things that you can do to take steps um to address your tax situation as a middle class income earner. I would say that I said that like a politician, like Robert, you said in a circle. What you need to do is sit down with a financial professional, build out a tax strategy to ensure that as a person, I think me and Mike talked offline about a lot of these things as a middle class earner, and let's just even say in the middle end where I have a family and then the average income of the family is like $150,000, right? But because of the size of our family, some of the things in the tax code, some of the things that we've implemented, our taxable income is probably between 40 and 60,000. We have a family that makes over 150,000, but
There
our
you go. That's where you were.
yeah, taxable income is only about $40,000.
Right.
So what that comes down to is just our tax strategy is different. Now,
Hmm.
is that to say that we are a middle class family based off of what we bring in? Absolutely. When it comes down to tax time, we have the boundaries to move to the left or the right.
That's
We
good.
generally
That's good.
slide to the left or the right to ensure that we're not paying taxes as a middle class earner. But that comes down to sitting down with a professional and figuring it out.
Oh, that last statement you made was probably like you just said, the nail on the head. What I think, as far as the middle class, you're only as doomed as you allow yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you make an evolution, and it all comes down to identity, okay? And we talk about that a lot. How you look at yourself, how you identify yourself. And I think me and Rob talked about this offline. Is that's one of the first things he asks his clients is like, who are you? Like, how do you see yourself? And that's key because, both Rob and I, we have a similar style of coaching financially. If y'all didn't know, and it's y'all first time tuning in, Rob and I both are financial coaches. So when he was talking about sitting down with professionals and you're looking at two people that would be wonderful candidates to sit down and talk to, But getting back to the point of what I'm saying, you have to, and I love what you said too, is yes, you can be in the middle class. You can be there, but once you sit down and actually tinker with what you need to tinker with, you don't have to be that no more. So yes, the middle class definitely is doomed. Like, because again, that's just how the tax code is written and they have a specific target. So yes, the middle class is definitely targeted. However, you don't necessarily have to be middle class on paper. Okay. And that's the key. And I think that really encompasses everything that we was talking about. It really all comes down to one, the choices that you make. And two, the biggest thing is you have to plan around what you're doing. If you understand the game for what it is, because the game's not going to change. Like, let me just put that out there now. The game will not change. It's going to continue to be that way because of the predictability of the middle class. It's an easy win. If you a big old huge target sitting out there, then hey, look, it's going to be continue. It's going to continue to be easy to hit you because you're a huge target. But once you shrink yourself down, it makes it a lot harder to be that target. So it's really an evolution of the mind, and you have to start thinking, past this week. You have to look at, and I think this is the all encompassing thing. You have to go from a taxpayer to a tax planner. And once you start understanding, once you become a tax planner, you can say, okay, hey, you don't have to wait until April to be a tax planner. You can be a tax planner today. Realistically, you can start being a tax planner today. Okay. Oddly enough, it is April, but y'all know what I mean.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
that's
have to
good.
wait. You don't have to wait until tax time to be a tax planner. So all you really essentially have to do is sit down and understand, okay, I know how much is about to come into this house. I know it already. Take some time to understand, okay, well, how much am I going to have to pay if that much is coming in? And then ask yourself the third question. Okay, so how do I essentially work around this so that on paper, I'm not this person anymore? And I think that will begin to, not only will it change that tax situation, it's also going to change your mindset. Once you
Yeah,
start to understand that you actually do have a choice in this game, you're not just a cog in the wheel. Stop thinking like that. Stop being that person. And it's funny because Rob has said this. He said, "Listen, that's me thinking like a rich person. A lot more people need to think like rich people. Why do you think rich people are rich people? And a big part of that is how they think. I tell people this a lot in my initial introduction to my clients. And I say one of the first things that you have to do if you want to start getting on the right side of the money is do the complete opposite of what everybody else is doing. That is the first thing that you got to
100%.
start doing. Do the opposite of what everybody else is doing first, and then just watch how much things change by then. Anywho, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too deep. Normally Rob does that. I mean, I let him, be that person.
Be
But
cooking.
in the interest, you really do, you really do. But in the interest of your time, because I know your time is valuable, and I don't want to take up your whole day, because we could talk about money and taxes and all this all day, and I wouldn't have no problem with that. But my viewers, so y'all gotta go out there and actually make some money, so y'all can't sit here for the next 44, 45 hours that we could talk about this. But
For sure.
Rob, first and foremost, thank you so much, man, for jumping on here and talking with me about this. You always, always, always give me more to think about in these conversations. I'm still learning from you, so I get a little bit of free sauce, every now and then. You know what I'm saying? That y'all may, if y'all not tuned in, y'all might not catch all of it. But Rob be giving out a lot of free sauce if y'all really sit down and take notes. But thank you for that, man. And I'm sure the viewers appreciate, what you're doing. I know outside of the podcast, there's a lot of other things that you're doing. I don't want to spoil all of it. I have participated in some of the things that you're doing. As you know, I'm always going to support you. So I have participated in some of the things you're going to do, but I do want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about, some of the things that the GOAT family is doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, we've been busy, man. Finally solidified the book, got the first copies, and immaculate.
Nice.
I think, yeah, the way the book looks doesn't even capture what's inside of it. That's why I love the fact that what made me write my first book was somebody says, you want to hide something, put it in a book. And I said, I don't want to hide it, but I definitely want it to be available. And as I started to build the book, I just thought the most thing that people will look inside is something that is attractive enough to make them at least look at the first page. And if I can make you
Yeah.
read the first page, you can read the whole book and none of the information is hidden. With that being said, Growth Over Average Thinking, the GOAT book, Growth Over Average Thinking, pre-sale now. You want to go to yourmoneygoat.com/shop. I only have about 20 books left that I'm going to sign, which is amazing. It's a blessing. I was only planning to sign 100 for the pre release. The book will be available this summertime for sure. Let me tell the people now because I don't know which episode it's gonna be. You can sign copy of the book at yourmoneygo.com/shop, or you can go to Amazon and cop the book. The book currently is only in hardcover form, but I am debating whether even to release a paperback version of this. I got to talk with my team about it, but definitely Kindle and Audible is coming soon.
Nice.
So super, super dope project. That's what we're working on. We have a few other things. If you ever want to track what we got going on, just go to yourmoneygoat.com/events and you can see all of the happenings that we have. Don't forget to get your free financial audit by doing yourmoneygoat.com/bookings. Use the code GOAT at 24, GOAT24, and you can get a complimentary financial audit by yours truly.
Nice.
What you got
Listen,
going on?
y'all. I hope before we get into that, hold on. Let's not just like glide past that. Like, I hope that everybody was writing, or you know what I'm saying, if y'all listen to this again, y'all make sure y'all write this down. Listen, I'm telling you this as a fact because I've learned a long time ago. I'm not in competition with anybody, so I don't mind, giving somebody in the same space as me, their props. When I tell you guys that Rob knows what he's talking about, I mean, y'all hear him, when I just ask him a simple question, how technical, what I'm saying, he gets into this thing, you know what I'm saying? So that level of technical expertise, if we just talking about one question and he's getting, that deep with it, just imagine just all the gems that's going to be in this book and it could be in that financial audit. So if you have not written down those resources that Rob just put in front of you, listen, you're doing yourself a terrible disservice. I'm telling you that
Uh-huh.
now. Okay, terrible disservice. Now, with that being said, we're gonna move on to me. Yeah, so right now, my biggest project that I have going on right now is I have what's called the Green Order Inner Circle Nasdaq Trading Room. Now, I'm gonna preface this with a lot of things because a lot of people will get on here. Y'all gonna hear me say, okay, I got a basically a stock trading room, and the first thing that y'all gonna think is that I'm about to tell y'all when to trade, like no. First off, that's enough. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because I am not a stock broker. So I cannot tell you when to get into the market. And that's also kind of considered insider trading. So I'm not going to jail for none of y'all. But what this room does, this room provides you with the fundamental training and the mindset and kind of like points to keep your eye on because really that's what trading kind of comes down to. It boils down to, okay, where do I want to buy this stock or sell this stock? Okay. And so this trading room is going to be a phenomenal place. This is going to be a place where you can just come sit down, share your ideas, get my personal insights on where I think those sweet spots are. And of course, you'll also learn to do your own analysis because that is what I'm going to tell you. Okay, I can show you what I think, but it's also important that you learn and understand, okay, what you're looking at and what's going on. And that's the kind of coach I am. I don't want to just teach you or give you a fish. I want to teach you how to fish for yourself. I am that rare person that in the economic system, most economic systems want to give you something that's going to eventually break so that you keep needing them. I'm that rare case that's look, I'm going to equip you with the knowledge to where at some point you can transition on and do your own thing. That to me is the real key. I want you to be at a point where I work myself out of a job with you and to where you are now equipped to get out there and do something great. So this trade room is one of those key examples because, and really made me do this is because I'm seeing what's happening out here economically. Listen, guys, if y'all not seeing this, I'm telling you, it's going to get rougher before it gets better because the way that the game is changing right now. As you know, the game does not always stay the same. It's forever evolving. It's always something new And so you're going to have to start equipping yourselves with new skill sets. And so that's what really prompted me to open up this trade room to individuals to give you some kind of fight in the game. So to get more information about that, I want you to go to the-greenorder.com/book-appointment. And you can actually sit down, much like Rob. I give, free consultations. We talk about what you want to do with your money. And if the trade room is something that you want to become a part of, by all means, I would love to have you. Once you decide you want to do it and we make our arrangements, you'll get the actual link to the room and you will be in the building. Hey, look, you just basically got presented two opportunities to, put yourselves on the right side of money. One huge one with Rob, which is something you can constantly go back, research, and I would definitely, and encourage you to do so. When you get that book, I don't say if, I'm say when, because when you get that book, I encourage you, do not just read it once. You're probably gonna need to read it several times because I can guarantee, I know Rob well enough to know that there's so many nuggets in there. You're gonna have to read it a couple times to catch all of them. But I encourage you, get this book. I've already pre-ordered mine, so look, I got mine. Don't look.
Sir. Yes,
I'm,
sir.
I'm just trying to make sure that y'all good, because listen, once they gone, they gone. So you don't want to miss out on this. But get that book and get yourself on the right side of this, mental game. And then, say, come on over here, let's get in the trade room at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Let's get our mind right
I
and let's
love
get our
that.
money right at the same time. So with that being said, hey, again, my co-host, thank you so much for jumping on here. Enjoyed the conversation as always, as always. So make sure you guys, check out Rob and check out those sites if you didn't write them down. Make sure you wrote down mine and let's get in this trade room. But until the next time, guys, y'all take care of yourselves. God bless you all. Gone.
We out. You just tapped into the 7th Sense, where the mind meets the money and the legacy gets built.
It's your boy Money Mike, the financial Thanos, snapping one myth at a time and leaving no financial lives standing.
And I'm Coach RL, mind right, money right, legacy locked in. If today's episode gave you game, make sure you rate, review, and share it with someone.
Hey, follow us on all platforms and keep the conversation going, guys. DM us your questions, your myths, and your money wins.
Until next time, think deeper, move smarter, and keep building.
This is the 7th Sense Podcast. We out.